Ladies and gentlemen, we are back and we're going to be previewing and discussing Asian World Cup qualifiers, where a few teams can automatically qualify for the 2026 World Cup. So I picked out a handful of key matchups for this upcoming slate of Asian World Cup qualifiers. And I know this isn't something that I normally do on the channel, but I want to start previewing all the matches for Asian World Cup qualification. So if you enjoyed these types of videos, make sure to let me know in the comments down below. And don't forget, if you're a big fan of Asian football, but more specifically the Iranian national team, this is the channel that you need to be at, so make sure to subscribe. And if you are excited for these upcoming matches in Asian World Cup qualification for whatever nation that you are rooting for, make sure to smash the like button on this video, because it helps out the channel a ton. And that's going to be Australia versus Indonesia. The previous time these two teams faced off, it ended 0-0, but my goodness, that was a completely different time era, it felt like, for Australia, because they were struggling to start World Cup qualification under Graham Arnold. And since firing Graham Arnold and bringing in Tony Popovic in late September, they haven't lost a game, with 1 win, 3 draws. Granted, they need to start doing a lot better if they want to qualify for this World Cup. I'm not super concerned because this is typical Australia and Asian World Cup qualification. We saw it in the previous one where they didn't get an automatic qualification spot, but made it out in the playoff rounds and were pretty solid in the World Cup. That's just what they like doing. That's the biggest praise I can always give to Australia. They can always dig down deep and they just got that dog in them. While on the other hand, with Indonesia, they have picked up a little bit of form and they have a realistic shot in finishing in one of the higher places in their group. Group C is any teams to play for. I mean, second place is wide open while last place is even wide open. Any team can finish in any of those spots. And that includes both of these national teams that we're talking about right now. So that is why this game is so crucial. And I think this is the point in qualifiers where Australia start putting it together and start stringing along these wins to finish in that second or third place spot. So I'm just gonna pip it to Australia with a 1-0 win. But as I've said numerous times in videos on the channel across many different videos, Indonesia are a one-to-watch national team in Asia right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if they came out and had a huge result against Australia in Australia. As we saw in the previous slate of matches, they went out and beat Saudi Arabia outright, even under Hervé Renard. We're not even talking about Saudi Arabia under Mancini. We're talking about Saudi Arabia under Renard. So you got to give them big praise there. Maybe they go on and take down another big Asian giants. Then next up is Saudi Arabia versus China. On paper, you might not think this is a big matchup, but as I said, Group C is absolutely wide open. China and Saudi Arabia are tied on points. Similarly to the same issues I was talking about with Australia, Saudi Arabia have started off this qualifiers extremely slow. The Mancini experiment was an absolute dumpster fire, and they just seem like they haven't been able to pick up any big form since their big win against Argentina in the 2022 World Cup, which was nearly 3 years ago now. As much as that result was peak for Saudi Arabia, it seems like it's absolutely cursed them. I thought things would be smooth sailing once they brought back Renard, but it's kind of been choppy waters. It seems like Saudi Arabia can't quite get over this mental block that Mancini has put on them. And this has to be the game Saudi Arabia get the win and start kicking on, because they are in serious danger of falling in one of those lower place spots and maybe not even getting into a qualification spot. It's really becoming touch and go for them. I'm a little bit more confident in Australia than with Saudi Arabia because we've seen it in the past. Australia always like to have a slow start in qualifiers, but always pull it through. But with Saudi Arabia, it seems like mentally they are very fragile. In China, they're in decent form going into this match, winning their last 2 out of 3 games. I think this game might end 1-1. I don't see China winning it, but at the same time, I don't see Saudi Arabia winning it. Then for the next match, it is Iran versus UAE. If a few matches go Iran's way, where Uzbekistan drop points, Iran have a big result here, and I think a few other things have to happen, Iran can solidify their spot for the 2026 World Cup. I don't think it'll happen in this match because I don't see Uzbekistan losing or really just dropping points whatsoever. But we're going to touch upon the match that I think will help them solidify that automatic World Cup qualification spot. So you're just just gonna have to wait till I talk about that. This match does fall on Nowruz, which is Persian New Year's. And for all my Iranian fans watching, Eid Shama Mubarak, Happy Nowruz, Happy Iranian New Year. I'm not exactly sure when this video will be released, but either way, it will be pretty close to it. So I want to wish you all a Happy New Year. And that even includes all of you that may not be Iranian. I want to wish you all a Happy New Year. And for all of you that may not know, Iranian New Year's, Nowruz, falls on the first day of spring, which is going to be absolutely peak because I'm tired of this depressing, dark, gloomy weather. I need the sun to start coming out. But in regards to this match, the previous time these two teams faced off, it ended 1-0 for Iran. And I honestly think it might be a similar result. Iran will be rocking this very, very cool special edition Nowruz kit that I'm super pumped about because to my knowledge, the Iranian national team have never had a special edition kit before and have not worn a green national team jersey for like 20 plus years. So I'm super pumped for them to unveil that kit and hopefully win in that kit. So I'm gonna go with a nice 1-0 win just like the previous time when these two teams faced off. And then finally, to conclude the key matchups from the first week of matches, we have Qatar versus North Korea. As I've said in multiple videos, North Korea and Kyrgyzstan, yes, they are out and they're definitely not going to be qualifying for this upcoming World Cup, but they are the most difficult, annoying, worst teams to face off against. They have caused every single national team in Group A troubles. It has not been easy sailing when you face off against North Korea or Kyrgyzstan. And Qatar seriously need to start picking up points now because they are in danger of slipping to one of the last playoff spots in this group. So they need to get all 3 points here against North Korea. And when they previously faced off, it ended 2-2 and Qatar looked dangerously close of losing that match. So I'm hoping that they can clean up all these mistakes and they can get the win. And then for North Korea, they're just the gift that keeps on giving. They have so many surprises, so many insane goals, insane moments, and I wouldn't be surprised if that keeps on going in this game. And I'm gonna go with probably one of the most exciting matches in this first slate of match day matches being this one where it ends 3-2 just for Qatar, pipping it above North Korea, where Qatar win it by the skin of their teeth over North Korea. Now moving on to the second slate of match day matches, which has a lot of very tasty juggernaut battles. And the first one being Japan versus Saudi Arabia, where last time when these two teams faced off, it was a pretty comfortable 2-0 win for Japan. And as I just said about Saudi Arabia, they need to start picking up points. And this might need to be the game where Hervé Renard shows everybody that he's still got that magic with this national team. It's the big statement match that Saudi Arabia needs. They need to get a good result. And with Japan kind of having their heads in the clouds, in my guess, they're pretty much going to be secured a spot to top the group. And maybe they slip up here. So I'm going to go with a conservative 1-1 draw in this match. I can't see Saudi Arabia quite winning it, but at the same time, I do think Japan might slip just a little bit because they don't really need this result to go their way. Then moving on to South Korea versus Jordan, which is a rematch of the Asian Cup semifinal match where Jordan came out as the surprise winners to make it to the Asian Cup final, destroying South Korea in that match. But when they previously faced off in World Cup qualification, South Korea got the quite comfortable 2-0 win over them. But I am definitely betting you they would have wanted those two matches to have been reversed and they were playing in the Asian Cup final. I think there's something really special going on with the Jordan national team. That Asian Cup has really just sparked them to being one of those dark horses, up and coming, rising Asian national teams, and could qualify for this World Cup. I think they will solidify a playoff spot, but I am a little bit worried for them in this match. South Korea have slipped up in a few of their matches. They haven't looked quite convincing, but I still think, yet again, like in their previous match, they feel like blood is on their hands from that Asian Cup loss to Jordan, so I think they might win this one yet again 2-0. Now next up, we have Indonesia versus Bahrain. And this game might not seem the most interesting, but when these two teams faced off previously, it ended 2-2, and it was quite an interesting matchup. I've said it, and I will say it again. Group C is absolutely wide open. Both of these teams are neck and neck on points. And depending on how Indonesia's match with Australia goes, they will feel like this game has to be 3 points for them. And then at the same time for Bahrain, they will probably feel the exact same way. So I think just like in that previous matchup, both teams are going to go guns blazing. They know they need to get all 3 points. The offense needs to score goals. Maybe defense might be a little bit non-existent in this match. But unlike last time, I'm gonna go with Indonesia to get the sneaky 2-1 win over Bahrain, which would really put them in a half-decent spot to solidify a playoff position. So please, Indonesia, prove me right here. Then finally, to wrap up all the matches, yet again, for the 2,753rd time, that's obviously not how many times these two teams have faced off, but it feels like they have faced off so many times in the last couple of years. Iran versus Uzbekistan, where this could be the match where either of these two national teams can solidify top of the group, automatic qualification, stamp their spot for the 2026 World Cup, be that guy that finishes top of Group A. Every time these two teams have faced off recently, it's ended in a draw. Iran and Uzbekistan did recently face off in the same group, funnily enough, in the recent U20 Asian Cup, where Iran's U20 team was able to take care of business and beat Uzbekistan. Where I tweeted about it, where the senior national team should take some notes from the youth national team and just take care of business here. Every time these two national teams have faced off at senior level, it's been quite boring for the most part, except for maybe that 2-2 draw in Uzbekistan, but a lot of the games have just ended 0-0, and that's what happened in the previous matchup. Someone needs to finally put the dagger on this tie. Who's going to be the national team to finally get that win? The issue I have with Uzbekistan is it feels like there's like this mental block when it comes to them finally being that national team to be one of those top dogs and to beat one of those top dogs, because Uzbekistan are kind of on this fringe of not necessarily being a minnow of Asian national teams, but they're not quite one of the big top dogs in this Asian national team pool. They're just kind of a tweener right now because they can't seem to get over the hump of being able to beat the top national teams consistently, be able to compete toe to toe. And I almost feel like every time they do face off against a Japan, Iran, South Korea, whoever it may be, they play below what we see them do when they're free of those shackles, where they don't have to be the top dogs, where the spotlight is shining on them to do something. And then there's Iran that I don't know what's going on. They just can't seem to get a win over Uzbekistan to save their lives. And it's really annoying me because Iran has a really good record against Uzbekistan. The issue is I'm worried with how much Uzbekistan have been developing their players, the national team. It's kind of getting close between the two national teams. My beloved Ali Reza Jahanbakhsh came out with this quote saying, to paraphrase, Iran and Uzbekistan is not comparable. Iran have multiple players playing in Europe while Uzbekistan don't. We're kind of the top dogs. Don't consider them on the same level as us, which kind of aged a little bit poorly because Uzbekistan have now a player playing for arguably one of the best teams in the world in Manchester City with Kusanov. Their overall national team market value is higher now than Iran's, and it seems like they're really starting to catch up here. And if Iran don't get one of those statement wins, which they really need to do, especially playing at home, and this could be the match to qualify them for the World Cup, then that quote is gonna look like it's aging like milk, and I don't want that to be the case. And I'm gonna say this, I think Amir Khalanui, the Iranian national team, with most likely them pretty much guaranteeing an automatic qualification spot for the World Cup, will play very freely, will play their game, won't have to play so defensive, and we see them get a nice 2-1 win to solidify top of the group. I really hope this doesn't age badly because I really would like to see Iran finish top of the group and still be one of those top dogs in Asian qualification. But boys and girls, my opinion only matters so much. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Which one of my predictions do you agree with, disagree with? Let me know your thoughts. If you're a big fan of Asian football, this is the channel that you need to be at, so make sure to subscribe. And if you really enjoyed this video, make sure to go check out this video next, where I talked about the biggest Asian transfers in football history and ranked them. So make sure to go check that out next. And boys and girls, I hope you'll have a lovely day.